God's holy. The sky is falling. Trump's tariffs have destroyed the economy. Wholesaling's over. Or is it? I don't know. We're going to undo everything and we're going to solve that question today. We're going to look into whatever's going on with these tariffs and the decisions that Trump's making and the impact that it's having on our economy. Does it impact us as wholesalers at all? Should we even really care? I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not a huge political guy. I don't really follow it that strongly. I don't enjoy the topic, but my team came to me and they kind of pushed me to do this today because they know it makes me somewhat uncomfortable. I'm by no means an expert in this topic, but I can look at data and see what has been told to us by the media, influencers, the public, and then look at what's actually happening and see if it's real or not. Do we actually have a concern right now? So, welcome to the King Closers Formula. I am the King Closer, RJ Bates III. This topic is an interesting one. One that I didn't really see coming about because, last week there was this graph that was viral. It went everywhere. I mean, I saw it on Facebook, saw it in Facebook groups. I saw it shared by people that I respect. And I'm going to show it here in a second. And I can almost guarantee you that you've seen this somewhere on social media. And the more I looked at it today, I'm like, what is this showing us? And why was it shared so much around social media as like facts? And then what is it actually telling us about what's happening in our economy and in the housing industry right now? My quick knee-jerk reaction in regards to the tariffs themselves and what it does to the real estate industry is obviously it will have an impact on new construction and development. For how long, we don't know. I mean, the updates that are coming in, minute by minute, hour by hour, the amount of countries that are negotiating with us on the tariffs, lowering the tariffs that they impose on us, wanting to negotiate with Trump and his administration, figuring all that out. I don't foresee this being a long-term thing. I feel like this is very much like a power play by Trump to make things better for our economy. And in the short term, yeah, there's impact that can be negative. Obviously, we saw that in the stock market and pricing might go up initially, but I think the whole intention here is to make things better, right? It's amazing to me to see the amount of people, like I shared a reel yesterday, just simply asking, Trump is president, how do you feel about that? No, I did it in a little bit more dramatic, hooky, clickbaity way, but the amount of negative comments in regards to the tariffs themselves is astonishing, especially considering the majority of people that follow me on social media are real estate investors. And I thought about it from the perspective of, if I go to a homeowner and I say, hey, Mr. Homeowner, I'm willing to offer you $200,000 for your house. And they say, all right, appreciate the offer, but I'm going to pass on it. And then 3 months later, they come back to me and they say, hey, is that $200,000 offer still available? I almost always say it's $190,000. It's $180,000 now. It's almost identical to what Trump is doing right now, where he imposes a tariff, and then that country comes back and says, all right, well, then we're going to increase our tariff on the United States, or we're going to impose a tariff if there wasn't already one in place. And then he doubles down, like he told China. If you do not remove the tariff that you just put on us, I'm going to increase it by 50%. I mean, it literally is negotiating. That's what he's doing. Isn't that what we want? Don't we want someone trying to make things better for us? And yeah, in the meantime, it's scary. It's scary if when I have a deal at $200,000, if I go back to the homeowner and say it's $190,000, there's always the possibility that they say kick rocks. But more often than not, what ends up happening is I get a better deal and I get it at $190,000. That's the exact same thing that Trump's doing right now. And I believe, just personally, he's standing strong and he's doing the right thing for our country. Now, let's talk about this graph, moving to the real estate side of things that went viral. And it was from Patrick Bet-David. And this is the graph right here. And essentially, what the post said was, well, first of all, drop in the chat if you saw this on social media. Did you see this graph somewhere on your social media last week or this week? So inside of this, it said 6 million Americans are behind on their mortgage. Now, what I want to point out right here, you can see it says multifamily. And I don't understand what any of this is saying realistically. I mean, it's got from 2004 to 2025. It's got some numbers over here. It says edit chart. I mean, dude, I don't know how this, what appears to be Freddie Mac's serious delinquency rates for multifamily, conveys to 6 million Americans being behind on their mortgage. That was shocking to me. So on Patrick Bet-David's post, there was a gentleman that got tagged, and then he shared what's actually happening in the single family real estate. Okay. So this shows single family serious delinquency rate 90 plus days or in foreclosure. And this goes all the way back to January of 98, all the way to January or right after January. So probably March or February 2025. It shows the graph of Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae mortgages of 90 plus days or in foreclosure. And as we can see here, this is going to be a trend of the data. Things were real bad in, starting there in 08, 09, 2010. And then for most of us, where me and Cassie, we started right here. Things were already getting better, continue to get better. This little thing called COVID happened. Things got way bad. And things have been getting better, and they kind of leveled off, going all the way back to where we were pre-2008. That's kind of where we're sitting according to this graph. Of course, I don't know if this graph or this graph, again, I don't know. Now, there was this article written by Newsweek, okay, back in January 27th, 2025. Says over 6 million Americans are late on mortgage payments, according to a study. It doesn't say who did the study. It just says over 6 million Americans are late on their mortgage payments, according to a study. Outside of this article and Patrick Bet-David posting on Facebook and Instagram and all the different places, Threads, X, that graph that said multifamily Okay, so Anil says it's a Bloomberg terminal screenshot. Okay, well, that's great. Why does it say multifamily, and why is he talking about American homeowners being late on their mortgages? It does not make sense to me. I commented on one person's post. They came back and they said a bunch of technical stuff as if like there's something that exists where we could just figure this information out. Okay. So I read this Newsweek article. It says buying a home remains out of reach for millions of Americans because of inflated home prices and rising interest rates. Last month, borrowing costs on a 30-year home loan, so this would have been December of 2024, surged to 6.85%, according to Freddie Mac. That compares with a much lower rate of 6.61% the year before for a 30-year mortgage. So, I was just curious. I went to mortgagecalculator.org. I saw this thing. It said the average American's mortgage debt is $265,000. It was like $264,000 and some change. Okay, who knows if that's legit or not? But that's what it said. So we'll just punch it in 265. All right, we're at, according to December. This is Freddie Mac. December 2024. We're at 6.85%. Over 30 years, your monthly payment would be $1,736 without interest or without insurance and taxes. Okay, it surged from 6.61. So we're at 1736. Remember that? Boom. We're at 1694. So the surge, this astronomical surge over a 12 month was $40 a month for 30 years. Guys, I'm a little bit confused by the narrative being spun here. I mean, when we talk about inflation and interest rates rising and things like this, when we write things like over 6 million Americans are behind on their mortgage, according to a study, I mean, what's to say anybody could just say, well, over 8 million Americans are behind on their mortgage payments, according to a study? I mean, what study? Who did the study? How did that data come about? And then when we talk about the rising interest rates, and they surged to an unaffordable 0.14% higher, which is $40 a month on average of the debt, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So I do some more research, and I find this is by Consumer Finance. It shows the percentage of mortgages that are 30 to 89 days delinquent. So this actually makes sense to me, because for those of us that are in real estate, and for those of us that have dealt with people in foreclosure or pre-foreclosure, we understand there's a difference between someone that missed a payment and someone that is approaching being 3 months behind. 3 months behind, now there's a serious issue going on. So this graph, what I found interesting, okay? Going back to 2008, 30 to 89 days delinquent, the national average at the peak was 4.2%. Where this chops off on here was June of 2024, we're at 1.4%. So when I go back into time, I mean, for those of us that have been in real estate for a while, I mean, we would probably say things were pretty decent in 2016, 17, 18, 19, right? The percentage of mortgages that were 30 to 89 days delinquent were significantly higher in comparison. I mean, you're talking about right here at the lowest, April of 2019. Things were rocking in April of 2019. was at 1.6%, which is 0.2% higher than where we're at in June of 2024. So, yes, we hit a record low down here in April of 2021. Why did we go so low, though? Because we were just recovering from COVID, where we had forbearances. We knew that there was going to be an uptick to a certain degree. From a wholesaler and a real estate investor standpoint, though, of all the data that I look at, there's nothing here that is alarming that says anything massive is going to change where the floor is going to fall out beneath us right now, or it's happening. In fact, going back to the 6 million Americans that are behind on the payment, the only place that I could find that anywhere was Newsweek, according to a study, and Patrick Bet-David using a multifamily graph. Does anybody else know any other place that you could see where it agrees with that? And even if it does, how does that compare to what's happened in the past, going back to 2017, 2018, 2019? The other thing that stood out to me about this graph right here, I found this to be very interesting. You see how there's always a peak, like every year? As I was going, it was January, 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 January. January is always the peak. I'm not a smart guy. I mean, I just look at the thing and I go, well, why would people be behind on their mortgages in January? Maybe it's because they spend too much money on Christmas. I don't know. It's every January. Same thing going back to January 2024. We'll bring the graph back up so you guys can see this. January 2024, 1.9%. We go back to January 2019. In January 2019, guys, wholesaling was rocking. It was fantastic. 2.2%. Why do we feel like the world's going to fall apart now? I don't think it is. When I look at what's happening with Trump and the tariffs, I think there'll be an immediate impact on the cost of new construction. Outside of that, potentially some raise of the interest rates, but eventually it's going to come back down. And I don't see anything happening here on the foreclosure side to where the market falls apart. Now, look at some of the other things that I've seen here. Key mortgage statistics in 2025, which, to be clear, there's not much information out there in regards to what's happening to the mortgages in 2025 yet, because we're still too new into 2025. What I did find out was, and this is the most interesting part to me, in quarter 4 of 2024, only 2% of mortgage properties were underwater. So there's equity in 98% of the mortgage properties. Now, this figure is up slightly from 1.8%. So it went up 0.2% in quarter 3 in 2024. But to give you perspective of where we are today in comparison to when the market actually just took a dump on all of us, the record high was 26% of mortgage properties were underwater in 2009. So we're about 24% off from hitting the oh shit button in regards to the equity is gone in all of these properties. 98% of properties that are mortgaged have equity in them. That's an insane number. I actually, prior to reading that, I would have not have thought that was accurate whatsoever. The other thing is, in the fourth quarter of 2024, 0.7% of all mortgage debt in the U.S. was seriously delinquent. And by seriously delinquent, we mean 90 or plus days. That's where the foreclosures are going to happen. So less than 1%, actually, let's just call it what it is. 0.7% of all mortgage debt in the U.S. is actually facing foreclosure. So when I read things from someone that is powerful and influential as Patrick Bet-David, and then all of the people that then took that graph, didn't even read it, posted it all over social media, it's very similar to what happens inside the media. It's spewing fear that there's something horrible about to happen. Now, I've been lucky enough to have my entire real estate investing career during some of the best years that you could possibly be inside of real estate. I understand that. I'm aware of that. I missed the whole 2008 through 2010 debacle. And since then, yeah, we've had some ups and downs, right? We had COVID. We had the 2022 interest rate hikes. But there has yet to be anything remotely close to what was experienced back in 2008, 9, and 10. And there's always been talks about when is that recession going to happen? What is that going to look like? Do we need to have a reset? We still have a massive problem inside the United States, and that's a housing shortage. Chris Jefferson used to talk about this all the time on Pardon the Disruption. That is where I potentially see an issue with the tariffs right now. If the increase in new construction, just cost, goes up, we don't solve the tariffs quickly, the housing prices for the new construction is going to go up, and that could force some of the new construction that's being built for the housing shortage to be unaffordable, just due to the cost of the construction. That is where I could see a problem happening. But I think most of the developers are aware of that, and I think Trump is also aware of that as well. I think he's going to try to solve this as quickly as possible to try to avoid any situation where new construction gets built, it's unaffordable, and it ends up being quote-unquote underwater. Because as of right now, what I'm looking at, debt-wise, the equity on most of the properties, we're actually sitting in a fairly decent place. Even though when you look around and everything that you read, it's that we're not in a good place. Why is that the case? I don't know. I'll open it up to you guys. Why do y'all think the narrative is being spun that we're not in a good place? My good friend and TU member Mike Van Norden says, guys and gals, these tariffs are fluid, meaning other countries are being forced to negotiate, lower their tariffs levied against the U.S. as to alleviate the long-standing imbalance in their favor. That's absolutely correct. That's why it's being done, right? I think if you don't just read the first article that comes about, then you actually pay attention to what's happening, long-term, this will be better for us. Absolutely will. In turn, that should lower and alleviate some of the pressure that's felt by inflation. That would be the goal. Simone said, thank you. I was feeling the fear too, but why panic and stress? So see, that's the thing. What are we fearing? What are we stressing about? From a real estate investing standpoint and a wholesaling standpoint, there's been other moments that have been a lot more stressful, in my opinion. COVID was number one. We had never experienced anything like that before, and hopefully we never do again. That was a moment of panic and stress because it felt like the world was like coming to an end, especially at the beginning, right? And then it was like, okay, well, let's get back to normal. And then 2022, when the interest rates went up significantly and buyers stopped buying for a significant period of time, that was, from a wholesaling perspective, that was the first time that there was actual like stress on us. I don't foresee what's happening right now really impacting us, our industry, too much. Anil says the media is so biased towards Trump that anything he does, Hitler is ending the world. I would agree with that. I mean, again, just going back to how do you negotiate and why is this even taking place? And when I look at the statistics that exist out there, why would we even come out and say 6 million Americans are behind on their mortgage? Buckle up, get ready for the ride, hit the panic button. Why would that be a panic button? Why is that any different? We weren't, going back to my trusty little chart here, no one was saying hit the panic button in 2016, 17, 18, 19, right? Yeah, there was talks about hitting the panic button right here in 2020. That's what's crazy to me. And then we came in and we offered forbearance on all these, which is why we went down to a record low. Of course, people are going to struggle coming back up from that. We're still living with the repercussions of what we did in 2020. You go talk to a homeowner. If you've talked to enough homeowners at this point that are financially distressed like we have, you will see that they will admit that hey, I took a forbearance. My mortgage payment went up. Originally, I had no problem being able to afford my mortgage because it was $1,500 a month. But I took the forbearance and now it's $2,000 a month. My property taxes have increased. My insurance has increased. Those are actual issues that we should be talking about. Why have the property taxes increased so much? Why has the cost of insurance across the board, whether it's car insurance, property insurance, health insurance, why is that skyrocketed and made things unaffordable? That is part of the issues. Then he says, I did the forbearance. Wells Fargo actually had to settle a class action as a result of their practices. Exactly. There's always going to be a result of the actions that are taken. And so when we literally sit there and say, hey, everybody, you don't have to make your mortgage payments for a year, 2 years. And then when it comes back around and you wrap that on the back side of things and the mortgage payment goes up significantly, that's where we're going to obviously see an increase in delinquency and payments. But it's still not even getting us up to where we were when we were in the best of times. But yet the media now is spinning it as if the real estate market has crashed. And I get that we're not where we were in 2019 on the retail market where, days on market is super low and things like that. But I still also don't think we're in a place to where it's kind of just like normaled out a little bit. Then he says, I advise all of my clients to keep their escrow current because of that, just in case. Yep. I mean, it's very interesting times that we live in nowadays, especially when we have influencers with millions of followers that can be influenced. I mean, to the point of, I saw guys that I consider friends in the industry sharing that graph and talking about on a whim. I'm talking about Petrobet David posted it, and it's 6 hours later, influencers are now saying hey, we need to buckle up for the wave of foreclosures that's coming. And I'm like, what are we talking about? Are you doing the business? Because, dude, we're getting leads every single day, and people are not underwater. People are not facing foreclosure. That's not what's happening. Those are not the leads that are coming in. These are people are not calling us any more today than they were 6 months ago, a year ago. I mean, yeah, you still get that every now and then. Hey, I'm facing foreclosure. I'm in pre-foreclosure or whatever. But it's not suddenly there's a wave of this. That's where I have a concern where it's just man, the power of social media and turning on the camera and whatnot and being able to say things like fear-based, where we're trying to convince people that they need to buckle up or something, that the sky's falling, that's concerning to me. And it's following the trend of what our media has done to us, where when we sit there and you listen to the media talk about what's happening with the tariffs and whatnot, it's like, hey, the stock market crashed. Well, it's like, well, we all knew that was going to happen. Just write it out. Let Trump finish what he's trying to accomplish. He knew that was going to happen. We all should have known. Mike says it's simply art of the deal being deployed in real time for all to see, but the media narrative will always be Trump is wrecking the economy no matter the outcome. Agreed. What I want to really know because Trump's going so all in on this, that on the backside of this, when it successfully works, how are they going to spin this for the negative? Tariff is affecting the financial market, will affect the real estate market as well. Latest reports is that Canadian travels has reduced 70% to U.S. And FYI, they're number one foreign buyers in South Florida. I mean, I don't know really how that's going to affect the real estate market. Okay, I mean, just because they're the number one foreign buyer in like South Florida, I mean, maybe based off of what you just said, it impacts that one specific market. But I would assume that someone else would buy it if they're not going to buy it. I don't see the South Florida market just coming to a standstill because Canadians aren't buying it. I'm sure there will be a retiree from Connecticut or Rhode Island or New York that would buy the exact same property. Foreclosures are increasing, but 99% of properties going to auction are canceled. But again, where are you seeing that? That's what I'm saying. Like when I look at the actual data, like we're still significantly below where we were in 2018, 2019. Yeah, we've increased from where we were in record lows in 2021, but that's because there were no foreclosures. So we're at right now, we're at 1.4% seriously delinquent, whereas in 2019 we're in the 2%. Agreed. Less than 1 week in the tariff negotiations. And as of this morning, what is it? 50 countries have already come in and said they're ready to negotiate. Right? Some of them have already been somewhat postponed, so negotiations can actually take place. Japan, the UK, I believe, I did not read this. Someone on my team told me this. China is even talked about negotiating because of how Trump has handled that over the past 24 hours. I'm just saying, when I look at the day, I get that some people, 70 countries as of this morning. It's crazy. 70 countries. Why are we not happy that this is happening? Because again, guys, remember, this is to remove the tariffs that were put on us. I don't know. At the end of the day, for us as wholesalers and real estate investors, we have to understand that economies are always going to go up and down. There's always going to be waves. You have to figure out how to win in each different season. So for me, when I look at this, I go, well, what season are we actually in? Because if I read what's on social media and I read what's in the media itself, it would be that it's bad times. Foreclosures are on the rise. We're finding out that Canadians are the number one foreign buyers in South Florida, and that's going to tank the economy or the real estate market. I didn't know that. Is that actually happening across the board? When I look at what exists out there over the course of time, long time, not over the past couple of months, it just doesn't feel like this is necessarily a bad season. Feels like we might have a short dip to make things better for the long term. Apple invested $500 billion into manufactured products to be made in the USA. Now, why would they do that unless there was a benefit? Again, I'm not a smart man, but I agree with the question and kind of the insinuated answer there. Of all the things that have happened over the past decade while I've been in real estate, this one falls under the I don't think this is going to be as big of a deal as people are making it out to be. I think there's always, 6 months ago, I did a live just like this on a Tuesday, and I said, how do you win regardless of who wins the election? There was concerns that people had of what's going to happen if Trump wins. What happens if Harris wins? Well, Trump won. And I said, I think long term, if Trump wins, this will be better for us as an industry. Here we are 6 months later, and I still feel the exact same way. I personally have not felt anything inside of our business to where suddenly real estate investors don't want to buy wholesale properties. So from that perspective, our job is to keep our head down and keep doing what we need to do, which is locate the motivated sellers, the people that need to sell their house for a discount, which, by the way, again, I'm not seeing an increase of people needing to sell their house for a discount because of financial distress. I'm seeing it because of emergency reasons, life-changing reasons, death, health issues, physically distressed properties. But I have not seen anything that is financially related. I have seen some fear-based decisions. Like I personally talked to the seller last week who worked in the federal government, and she was concerned about losing her job. But she hasn't lost her job. It was just the fear of potentially losing her job was the reason why she might want to sell her house. My point is that bad news is good for wholesale and investors. Uncertainty is good for some businesses. Motivated seller, you see what's happening in the market. I just don't think there's bad news here. That's what I'm saying, Alberto. I mean, when I look at this, I feel like we're still in a better place than what we were, and some of the best times that I've ever had as a wholesaler. Is this live? Yes, this is live, Jonathan. That was your question. You got your answer. All right. That's my rant on this. Let's open it up for Q&A. What you guys got? Listen, at the end of the day, when I did my research, because I came into this, like I said, this is not a topic I would have chosen myself. When I went through and I looked at all this, I just kind of laughed at all of it. All of the fear that is being spewed upon us as a society, as a country, and as an industry. I just looked at it and I was like, well, just realistically, it all just seems like a steamy pile of shit. According to a study, according to an influencer, an author, a podcaster who put out a graph that had nothing to do with single family real estate, that no one can tell me as to why that was shared in regards to 6 million Americans being behind. And why is that even a concern? Are we really concerned about who missed a mortgage payment, or are we concerned about the ones that have missed 3 mortgage payments? If it was 6 million Americans have missed 3 mortgage payments, are 90 days delinquent, then we're talking about a potential 6 million foreclosures. That's not what we're looking at. Talked to a guy in Minnesota who wanted to move out to somewhere else because of political reasons. I get that all the time. I get that actually more than financial reasons. Like, I'm going to lose my house. I remember the days when we used to run Facebook ads and we would get sub-2 opportunities where it was like, hey, I just bought my house and I'm facing foreclosure and I got to get out from underneath this. That's not happening as much nowadays. That's what I'm saying. Like 98% of mortgage properties have equity. I wholesale properties strictly on market and closed 12 last year and 3 so far. I've not ran into the seller that was in distress due to funds. Usually moving out of state, death, sick, etc. Exactly. I think almost everybody that's moving volume in a wholesale would say the exact same thing. Like, what the narrative that's being spawned is not the reality that I'm existing in. Like, I'm actually talking, I'm trying to find the people that are in such financial distress that they need to fire sell their house. That's who we want to help. Like, there's 6 million of them. Well, if there's 6 million of them, by God, the millions of dollars that Speed to Lead, Lead Zolo, and Property Leads is spending to generate leads is missing all of them? Nah. PBD is an absolute grifter to the fullest. So there you go. I don't really follow the guy. The only reason why I knew is because the post went viral, and then a bunch of my buddies started sharing it. And I was just like, am I the only one that sees multifamily on this? When you double close on a property, how do you stop the first A to B closing, affect the second B to C closing retail price? When you double close on property, how do you stop? I don't understand what you're asking. How do you stop the A to B closing, affect the second B to C closing retail price? I don't know. Write that question again, because the way that that's written, it doesn't make sense. Robert said, I moved to the middle of Missouri because I felt like I was being choked by high costs and politics in San Francisco. Yeah, I mean, makes sense. I mean, we just went to Los Angeles, which I'm assuming is similar price point wise, just living costs to San Francisco. San Francisco might even be a little bit higher. And it was astronomical, just the cost for everything there. And it was crazy. Just a normal meal. I mean, $125 for two people. It's crazy. I've had to terminate due to me needing a reduction in profit. The seller is always willing to sign the termination. You're correct. There you go. Would you buy some land in Huntsville, Alabama, and buy, not wholesale? I only buy land if it's on seller finance terms. When am I coming to Chicago? Man, I've been to Chicago a couple of times the past several years. I would say the only time I'd come back to Chicago would be if my son had a hockey tournament. As large as Chicago is, we actually don't have very many TU members around there. We have like a couple, but not as compactly grouped as like Los Angeles, Florida, New York, New Jersey, even Georgia, Tennessee, Texas. Chicago is just kind of light. So if we were to travel to go somewhere to like meet with TU members, Chicago is probably far down on the list. A burrito in San Francisco is $18. In LA, it's $12. Angel bases the market off of burrito prices. I love it. Jonathan, if the land's on seller finance, email it over to me at rj@titaniumprops.com, and I'll take a look at it. You need an RJ bobblehead for your desk? Dude, I got one right there. That was a gift for being a speaker at the Deal Champ Summit a year ago. That was one of the best gifts anyone's ever given me. Are you sure you didn't visit LA to be on Gavin Newsom's new podcast? I am positive I did not go there. I was trying to convince all of our Los Angeles and quite a few of our Northern California brethren to move the hell out of there, man. Although I have to admit, the weather was incredible in LA. It sucks that the politics sucks there. Can we help a seller in foreclosure up to the sell date and time? Yeah, I mean, you can take all the efforts you possibly can to get it stopped before it goes to auction. Absolutely. I mean, we've stopped foreclosures all the way up until 24 hours in advance. I don't think I've stopped it on the same day, just because I haven't had those situations. But yes, absolutely. I mean, do everything in your power to try to get it stopped before they get foreclosed on. Sorry if a dumb question. I doubt it is, or one that I haven't already heard. When I put in the contract, buyer to pay closing costs, the title company understands this is only title fees, transfer tax, etc., not any liens / unpaid bills, right? Correct. And also, if you're using our contract, I can't remember specifically, but it would say on there like that liens and unpaid bills. But yeah, no one expects the buyer to cover liens or a mortgage or a water bill or something like that. I think I missed the comment back up here. Tyler, you were saying when you double close on a property, I heard it affects the price somehow when they close on it. I still don't understand the question, brother. I mean, you got to just rephrase it all, because I'm confused about what you're asking. Are you saying like it affects their, like it's going to show up as like they purchased it for a certain price or something? I don't know what you're saying. When am I coming back to LA? Well, Justin, I was just there like 2 weeks ago. We had a meetup. We went to the Sassafras Saloon. We had the whole place rented out to ourselves, and we had fun. It was good times. A bunch of TU members. Got to hang out and see some people I've never actually got to meet. Got to see Angel again. But yeah, I don't know when we're coming back, because I mean, we got other places we got to go to, man. We got to go see our people up in the Northeast, and we probably need to do a meetup here in Texas. How many of you guys would come to a meetup if we had one here in Texas? Man, you should have known if you're a member of the Vault. We posted about it in our Facebook group. You need a TU meetup in the Carolinas, huh? Let me look here, Tori. I don't know how many members we have in the Carolinas. Listen, that's a solid showing. Carolinas are doing pretty decent. The problem is you guys are spread out. Like, if we went to Charlotte, like, are these guys going to come? Or where are you at? You coming to Charlotte? Nelson says, let's do it. All right, here we go. I think a double close affects the government's assessed value, right? No. Why does it matter anyways? What are you actually trying to solve here? What's the problem, Tyler? I don't understand. Like, how would a double close affect the government's tax assessed value? And why is that a concern for you? Because you're worried that it's going to increase the taxes for your buyer? Why do you double close it? Got so many questions for you, Tyler. Might be able to rent out the glass cactus. What is the glass cactus? Oh, this place looks sick. Danny, you got the hookup? Damn. Yeah, Danny. I'm going to need you to hook us up with the glass cactus, all right? Your down payment can be $15,000 and a titanium membership. It's commercial land. Oh, man. I got to do $15,000 and a TU membership? Damn. What do you think about a brokerage for licensed wholesalers? I mean, It's probably inevitable, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's just going to cause like more rules to be followed and then manipulated. I mean, do we really think that it's helped like make realtors better for homeowners because they have to take 14 days of classes and have a, continuing education once a year? I don't think that they are better suited to solve sellers' problems because of that. Maybe because it would be regulated and there would be a governing body over it, but who's going to be that governing body? Who's going to say what a wholesaler should or shouldn't do? Look at this. Thank you for introducing me to Tavana. Chris, bro, throw back to my days where I talked about Tavana all the time. I love that guy. Which cold calling software is your favorite now? I remember Mojo being very laggy a couple of years ago. Well, we're not cold calling anymore, but the last dialer that we were using was Batch Dialer. Danny, so you don't have the hookup at the Glass Cactus? Because if you don't have the hookup, man, I'm mad at you now. I want to join TU soon. Can non-members submit one seller call for review? Well, I mean, you could, but then TU members are going to get to see the call review. Because I only do the call reviews inside of the implementation calls. I mean, let me ask you this, Nick. You want to join. What's holding you back from joining? Most people say it's money. I feel like that's just an excuse people use. Realistically, if you want to do it, you'll find a way. Tory used to say he wanted to join. Then the moment he decided that he wanted to join, he joined. You'll figure it out. But why that one seller call review? You think that's going to solve it? $20,000 deal closing in June. Why don't you have a deal closing in April and a deal closing in May? More. Do more, Nick. Also, for closing costs, I assume we pay for the seller's transfer tax. Do we also pay for the property tax? No, do not pay the property taxes. Property taxes get prorated. And then on the transfer tax, that is negotiable. There have been many a times where we cover everything except for transfer tax and obviously prorated property taxes. Brandon says your money gets returned quick if you put the work in. Money is an excuse. The real reason is that he doesn't believe in himself. Facts. From new TU member, Mr. Brandon Fisk, which, funny enough, Cassie, I know you're listening. Just to remind you, we have Brandon Fisk and we also have Brandon Fish. They're two different people. This is Brandon Fisk. I give her a hard time just because I know at some point in time she's going to make that mistake. It's hilarious that of all the people in the world that could join Titanium University, that we have a Brandon Fisk and a Brandon Fish. Like, that's just... And it was hilarious seeing their communication back and forth with each other when they realized how close their names were. Do you stay on top of title companies for dates or just, bro, you got to stay on top of them. Title companies don't care about your deal closing. Facts. You got to stay on top of them. In fact, Jonathan, there's a video on my YouTube channel that Cassie shot a couple of weeks ago about her closing coordination checklist. We actually give you a checklist for free of all of the emails, dates, and things that you need to stay up on top of, man. Go check that out. You can download that checklist for free. You're going to have Brandon Fish add a fish emoji by his name? I like it. All right, guys. Y'all got anything else? I'm happy that I made it through an entire live video where I talked about Donald Trump, politics, tariffs, foreclosures, and also said I didn't agree with Patrick Bet-David, and no one came on here and hated me. I'm relatively impressed with you guys today. That was awesome. Thank you for being an awesome audience. Part of the reason why I don't like talking about this stuff is because of the fear of just the negativity and then the fighting back and forth. I love it. RJ's a legend. I appreciate it. All right, guys, I'm out of here. I'm going to go record some more content for you guys. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video about how more lead sources won't make you rich, but something else will. See you guys then.